Hello, everybody. And now, after this first exam, I just wanted to touch base and point out a couple things now that we've had a couple discussion board. What I want to see now as we move forward, I'll be posting some questions, and I want us to begin to extend our analysis. I made that comment to many of you on your discussion post. Um, so here, as we move forward, before we move into um, our first policy reflection at the end of week 8, I want us to really begin to unpack and analyze the concepts via our discussion post. So I will post the questions, and then I want us to really engage, and also with each other. There was a few responses so I want you to read each other's post. You could begin make a comment, respond, and however you feel. So now chapter 3, as we move forward from the first exam, headed into exam 2, chapter 3, the concept of federalism, balancing power, balancing rights. So a few things that I wanted us to see here is how this concept of federalism, this cooperation between state, local, and federal government, and how that is the core of our governmental structure. So as we move through, you'll see the different types within the state, within local, specific voting issues. You hear a lot about the concept of gerrymandering. This kind of many argue is an anti-democratic form of drawing up electoral district lines in order to preference one party over another. You know about the Voting Rights Act of 1965, which sought to ameliorate past forms of electoral exclusion, and majority-minority districts, which came about as part of that in order to give representation to people of color and others. And you'll look at the map, different representation in state legislatures. You'll see what the role of governors and how diversity, do we see diversity in government, governors across the country. So as we move through, we'll also move through the state's courts, the types of systems, and as you see here, the role that judges play, local government and the types of rules that local governments take on, and the overlapping layers. One thing I want us to do is, you can do this, just plug in your "who are my electors." You type in your zip code. How many people know who the representatives are at the local, state, and federal level? Not many, but it's very easy to find out. By typing in your zip code, that will come up. So I want us all to do that and become more aware of who are you going to call and who is to be held accountable. So federalism and the role of Constitution. You have many things, what we know as the Civil War amendments, the 13th, 14th, and 15th, that we focus on. The Constitution and state power. So in the 10th Amendment is key to understanding the role that the states take on, because in the 10th Amendment it is where states, whatever powers are not delegated to the federal government, are left open to interpretation by the states. And this is the situation that we lie in now, the issue of states' rights versus the federal government, specifically here in California. But that's always been an issue since the inception of this nation. And there you see the Electoral College. Key cases: McCulloch v. Maryland, Gibbons v. Ogden, and specific laws over civil rights issues, Fugitive Slave Act, which centered the production of property, or the dehumanization of black bodies. And they are enshrined, of course, in the Constitution as property. So black bodies as property, protected and to be returned upon. We would also see a further strengthening of the Fugitive Slave Act in 1850, when, related to the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, after the idea of manifest destiny had been realized by the Anglo migrants flooding into the Southwest, and the invasion of the territories and the takeover and the acquisition of these lands. The Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo was a cease of hostilities, but particularly in 1848, Mexicans became the first racial group to become U.S. citizens. So initially had to be classified as white, because if we know back to the 1790 Naturalization Act, to be a citizen, you needed to be of a particular race, and that was white. Dred Scott v. Sanford, one of the most infamous cases where the story of Dred Scott could not sue for his freedom because, as famous Judge Taney mentioned, blacks in the nation had no legal standing. The Constitution was not intended for them. So the evolution as we move through dual concepts of dual federalism, state autonomy, levels of cooperation, incorporation, civil rights policies enacted, and that tension always between the states and the government. And here now you go to the controversial issue of the Voting Rights Act, which the text will discover many of these, which came to a head in 2013 with the Shelby County v. Holder Supreme Court ruling, really overthrowing many of the protections of the Voting Rights Act. So as we move through into these next chapters and this next section, I want us to read carefully, because this is where the responses will be coming from. You'll be thinking from the text. And also, I was very generous in the first couple postings to get us started, but now I'll be looking for an extension of your analysis. Right? How are you making sense? And the minimum word count is just that, a minimum. It requires, to achieve the full points, you'll have to go above that to express and articulate how you understand the text. So I look forward to joining you next time. Again, come see me office hour, shoot me an email, and we'll chat. I'm available around your schedules. And if you're on campus, swing by my office. See you soon.